to shopping really quick while the boys nap because Auntie MK is still staying with us for a few more days so she can watch them while they're napping. And I'm kind of emotional because we're here in the Pipe, which is where we lived when we were testing out Amsterdam last year. So we lived here for about 2 months, and like I took this walk all the time. I was pregnant with Remy unexpectedly. Nico was like 1.5 years, so it's very nostalgic. I'm actually gonna bop into this like vintage store on the corner that I loved. This shirt I actually got there last year, so I'm gonna go in and see if they have any unique finds. The guy who owns it, his name is also Nico.
Well, you can renew it, right, for 5 years, or you can renew it forever, right? If you want. I don't know. I think you can.
I honestly,
But it looks so...
okay, don't
Sorry.
curse in my.
All right, start over.
Don't curse in my vlog.
Start over. Hope hates egg salad sandwiches, but
I do love katsu, and it feels good to be back in the old neighborhood because we would eat at Ranchi so much. When I was pregnant with Remy, I lived on their waffle fries. So having a little snack before we head to the next shop. We're gonna go to Maha. But I did get a cute top and pants from Lucille, and I think I'm gonna get the pants tailored though. They fit for now, but I think I want them to just feel a little bit more, you know, snacky. So I'll have to figure out a good tailor in town. It's really nice to be here again and not be my first trimester. Now she's out of my mind.
Yup.
Those were hard days.
You can finally eat normal things without feeling sick.
I was in my first trimester with Remy, and I was still breastfeeding Nico. And our stroller, like I couldn't carry it down the steps because it was like we were 3 flights up on like crazy Dutch stairs. So I had to put him in the carrier, and I walked his strip like every single day. I take him to the park and kiddo.
It's a little too real.
Yeah.
How's it taste? Hits home.
I got Ranchi.
This is the tonkatsu. Katsu.
Yeah.
So good. Tomorrow, so we officially have to like figure out childcare in Amsterdam, which is still a work in progress, so fingers crossed, because Clayton and I both have a lot of work to do each day. It's kind of crazy. I feel like from the second that we wake up to the second we go to bed is just like having to do stuff, either like watching our kids or doing work or tidying the house or getting groceries. Like it is just a lot. Like we're both at max capacity. And very ready to get more into a routine with childcare and just like rhythms in general. But at the same time, it has been so wonderful to be here, and I just feel really happy. And every single day, I just feel like this is where we're supposed to be. And I wasn't sure, like you just don't know when you first get someplace if it's gonna take a while to settle in. And knock on wood, I know things come in waves. Like you can have like a really good couple of weeks and then like a really hard couple of weeks. So I know it's not always gonna feel this way, but for right now, it just feels so nice. Honestly, the weather helps. Like it's August in Amsterdam and it is so stunning and beautiful, and like the air is crisp, and how can you not love it? It's also been so helpful to like start going on like friend dates. I had like my first play date with the mom at the playground, and I'm meeting a new friend for coffee in a little bit, and we had some people over for dinner last night. And so I think those things help me also feel just so comforted knowing that there's people who like want to make new friends and starting to see what our life can really look like around here, that helps me so much. And also I go like a little crazy if I don't have friends and like other moms and other friends to talk to. So that has been really nice and sweet. Also this weekend we went like on a little boat tour because my sister-in-law is a flight attendant and she comes to Amsterdam often on layover. So she was here for like less than 24 hours, but we got to see her for a little bit. So it's just been fun. We went to like the zoo this weekend. I went shopping a little bit. Yeah, it was a really good weekend, but we are fully into the week ahead and I need to work quickly, but I wanted to start some Q&As because I've been getting a lot of questions. If you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, I feel like I document more of my like day-to-day there, and then these vlogs are more in-depth, like more talking and more weekly updates. But I get a lot of questions on just like, okay, how did you all move to Amsterdam? Like, what's the story? So I did like a question box on my Instagram and I'm gonna pull up those questions and do a little Q&A for you. Okay, so I'm not gonna get to every question, but I'm gonna just like find themes in these questions. So it's like, how did you guys decide to move abroad? Did you get a job over there? How did you learn that Amsterdam was the best place to relocate your family? What led to the decision? Etc. How did you land on Amsterdam, basically? Okay, so it was maybe 5 years ago. Clayton and I were living in New York City. We decided to make that move for our careers. We had been living in Nashville and Charleston before that. And we were like, okay, if we move to New York City, we can basically double our salaries and really like push our careers to the next level. And we were married, but didn't have kids at the time. So we're like, now's the time to do it. So glad we did that. It was like the best thing we could have ever done for ourselves, for our careers. It really set us up well. And Clayton's first job that he got there was at a startup that had a location, like an office in New York, but it was based in Amsterdam. So he had to come to Amsterdam for like 2 weeks for onboarding, and then he had like another trip a couple months later to go to Amsterdam to be with the team there. That trip happened to be in September over my birthday. And if you know me, my birthday, I'm a Virgo, and it is Virgo season now. My birthday is a huge deal to me because it's like my personal New Year's Eve. Like, I'm not like a big birthday party person, but I'm a big birthday person. Like I like to plan a lot of like self-development and care and introspection around my birthday. And it's just like a beautiful time of year. So we usually plan a trip around my birthday. So I was like, oh, perfect. You have a work trip to Amsterdam. It's for my birthday. I'm gonna come with you. So my first time in Amsterdam was with him on that work trip. And it was one of those places like I never really thought much of. And as soon as we got here, we both just felt like at home. And Clayton had told me this after his first time here. He was just like, it was one of those places he just felt at home as soon as he was here. And it was really fun to experience it with him like going into the office every day because there were like other Dutch people in the office that we could talk to just about like what life was like here. And we would like ride our bikes to the office during rush hour in the morning and in the evening. And it was just so fun. It almost felt like being like in a little fairy tale world where it has like this energy of like being in an international city like New York, where it's like the hustle and bustle and the culture, but with like this small town vibe, almost like a Charleston. So it takes like the best of both worlds, like big city energy, but also like small town charm. And when you're biking through that, like there are very few cars on the road. And you know, after living in New York City, that was wild. To be like biking with all the other people at rush hour and it's like golden hour and you're just like, this is so fun and so surreal and just feels like a little bubble of safety and like fun away from the rest of the world. So from that trip, I remember like we sat down to dinner one night after he got out of the office and we were just like, what if we like lived here one day? Like what if we raised our kids here one day? And it was kind of just like a pipe dream, but ever since then it's always like come up. And Clayton and I have always loved traveling. I think we've always loved the idea of living abroad. I have been honestly trying to live abroad since I was like 19 years old. I found a family in Turkey to live with when I was 19 during a summer in between college. And then I found a family in London to live with in my early 20s. So I have experienced it like, you know, a couple months at a time and have always just loved being in a place where the people around you, like English wasn't their first language. They come from a different background. Like I just feel like there's so much to learn being in new spaces like that. And I've always loved that feeling. And then the idea of raising my kids in Europe is very attractive for many reasons. Number one, go ahead and do a little Google of the Global Peace Index. They do a report every year and they literally like rank countries like by peace. Like they have like different ways, like different categories that they will rank a city by. And Amsterdam or the Netherlands is in the top 20. The United States is like 130 on the list. Like it's definitely well below 100. And I think when you start actually looking at the data and statistics, you realize like, no, this is for real. Like the United States is not the safest place to raise kids. And that was like a huge flag for me. Like I personally get a lot of anxiety thinking about sending my kids to school in the United States. I get very nervous going to grocery stores, movie theaters because of the gun crisis in the United States. And again, it's one of those things that when you're there, it's like it's like normal, and you know, like anything can happen anywhere, like bad things happen everywhere, and I get that, and you can't, you know, keep your life in a bubble, but easy access to AR-15s is something that's preventable. And so if that is something that we can and we should control, and right now that's not happening in the United States, that was a huge motivator for me. In addition to just like the cultural exposure for my kids, for myself, I love the pace of life in Europe. I love the fact that my children can grow up bilingual and just have a lot of friends from different places. So there's like a long story there, but the reason that Amsterdam ended up was because of that trip, then just an overall desire to move to Europe, and then also the ability to. So you can't just like pick any country to move to, you have to be able to like be approved for a visa, because we don't have any EU citizenship, unfortunately. If you do, you're very lucky. So we were looking at where could we even get a visa to be allowed to live long term. So the two options we came down to were the Netherlands and Portugal. So we did consider Portugal quite seriously because we could move there. Both of them, it's because we're self-employed. So we were working in-house for startups, mainly in New York City, and then got our careers to a certain point where we could take that freelance, which is where you're basically just like not in-house, but you can work more like on a contract basis with those brands. So we went freelance about 1.5 years ago, and it was so scary. Like neither one of us grew up with money, very much have like a scarcity mindset around finances. So it's terrifying to go freelance. But we did that 1.5 years ago, and it's been working out. And it has actually really helped with like our overall like pace of life, and we've really enjoyed it. And because now we technically own our own businesses, because when you're self-employed, you have like your own LLC. It opens us up to visas, because the DAFT visa in the Netherlands, D-A-F-T, is eligible for people who own their own businesses. So if you're self-employed, you can basically move your business over to the Netherlands. And if you have a business in the Netherlands, then you get this visa. So that's another one of the questions, like how did you actually do this? Like what visa did you get? Yeah, how did you do it? What visa did you get is one of the questions here. And then is it a long-term move? So this DAFT visa, you know, it's not easy. I'm not gonna pretend like this is just like a, you know, if you wanna move to Amsterdam, it's so fun. Just like move your family here and your whole life will change. Took us like 5 years, first of all, just like make the decision. And then we had to hire an immigration lawyer, which is quite expensive. So we had to, you know, be at the point in our lives where we have saved for a future goal. And then we use that money in order to, you know, make this move happen. So it's definitely like a sacrifice in so many ways, financially, your time. I mean, the past couple of months have just been extremely stressful, where we're on calls with so many different like people in the Netherlands, filling out so much paperwork, trying to like track down my birth certificate in Arizona and then get the apostille. And then like, there's just so many things that have to happen. So we applied for the DAFT visa. And that is, you have to renew it every 2 years. And then at 5 years, you are eligible for permanent residency. You're also eligible for citizenship, but in order to become a citizen of the Netherlands, you have to give up your citizenship wherever you're from. So we would have to give up our citizenship in the United States to become citizens here, which I don't think that we would do. And the nice thing about being a citizen in the Netherlands, though, is that you would be an EU citizen, which means we could then live in any country in Europe, which would be amazing. But it's a bummer that you can't be a dual citizen, but you can apply for permanent residency, which means we could just live in the Netherlands at least, like indefinitely. You know, we'll see what happens. We're gonna just take 1 year at a time. We got this apartment, it's fully furnished for 1 year, and we'll see what happens. But I definitely want to be here long term, especially because we're getting the boys into school, we're getting them to learn the language. I would love to just stay and keep things consistent for a little while. And I do want their childhood to be in Europe if possible. Back to Portugal though, the reason why we ended up going with the Netherlands, the weather is amazing in Portugal, the people, the culture, but I do think that we needed a little bit more of like a city. And Amsterdam again has like that more international vibe. It's like this walkable city that feels almost like a little New York. And I realized like we just needed that. Some people want to live on the beach and be able to like be in the sunshine every day. And that does sound lovely, maybe in like a future season of our lives. But honestly, with having young kids, I really like being more in like a close-knit city where it feels a little bit like busier. So that's why we ended up choosing Amsterdam, and we just honestly felt like more comfortable here and like it would just be a smoother transition for us. What was the name of the website that we used that we found our apartment on?
Para Reuse.
How do you spell that?
P-A-R-A-I-U-S.
P-A-R-A-I-U-S is the name of the website that we found our apartment on, but we were basically just scouring the entire internet for apartments, and we did hire a housing agency. We kind of, when we were making decisions on moving here, there was like the Venn diagram of like ways to do it, like with saving money, and then ways of doing it with saving stress. And so you kind of have to find the middle ground of like when it's worth spending a little bit of extra money to save yourself on stress. The housing situation was definitely one of those things where like, okay, I think it's worth paying. It was like a one-time fee to Home Crew is the name of the housing agency, to have a professional on the ground and then in the Netherlands to look at places for us. I'm really glad that we did that, even though we actually did find this apartment quite quickly. Basically it popped up and we were like, this is our dream home. We have to jump on it quickly, but we already had the housing agent in place. So we were like, hey, can you like go to a viewing and then talk to like the landlord and like negotiate and make this happen? I don't think we would have gotten this place if we didn't have that person on the ground, because we were in the United States. We weren't gonna come over to view apartments and then go back and then come back again. So I'm really glad that he was here to help with that. What happened was we didn't think we were gonna move until later this year, but we're like, let's just like start looking at apartments, like see what is out there. And then this place popped up and it's fully furnished. It has like a lot of spaces that were already furnished for a child. It has a beautiful backyard. It's in the location that we wanted. Like it just ticked every box. And there were a lot of like little things about the process too that just felt like serendipitous and like it was meant to be. And I really feel like that's what happened with this place. Like the woman who owns this house, like I just felt like there was this connection where I was like, we were supposed to be here. But the lease started on August 1st, which is much before when we thought we were gonna be moving. So we were actually on vacation in Michigan with friends when all of this started coming down, and Clayton looked at me and was like, so when we go home, we'd have 2 weeks to like pack up our entire house, find tenants, sell our car, sell our stuff, get the visa process moving farther, and literally move at the beginning of August. And we did it, but it was crazy. And it was worth it because we love this house so much. It is, of course, very difficult to find a home here. It is a small city with a lot of people, very packed, but honestly, we're kind of used to that just with having lived in New York City. It's a very similar story. And then even Nashville, like I feel like at every city in the United States, there's like very limited housing. Everything's very expensive. It's hard to find a place that like fits your needs. So we feel very lucky, but I feel like when you make a big move like this, you kind of look for when things just start clicking. And honestly, like as soon as we were just like, yeah, we're open to later this year, things started clicking faster, and you just kind of have to like follow that energy. And it just felt right. How do we plan to learn Dutch? Are you gonna visit any courses at self-study? We definitely wanna learn Dutch. The boys are gonna learn it faster because they will have either a Dutch nanny or be in Dutch school. So they'll be like learning it really quickly, which I'm so jealous of and really excited to hear them learning it. I am asking around different people that I've met, other expats, asking them like what classes they've taken to try to figure out what the best way would be. I've heard that there's some options where like you meet up with a tutor like in a coffee shop or cafe, sorry, not a coffee shop here. Coffee shops are another thing, if you know, you know. So you meet up with a tutor and then like they take you around to like different places around the city and like practice your Dutch in real life. Then of course there's like sit down classes. So I'm still debating. If you have any recommendations, please leave it in the comments. In the meantime, I'll be practicing on Duolingo. I freaking love Duolingo. And it actually is pretty helpful, I think, just for like that very early on, like learning vocabulary kind of aspect. And then we have been trying to watch like kids TV shows. We'll watch like Ninja with the boys, and it's so cute, and it's in Dutch, just to start like getting that in the back of our heads. But gosh, I really want to learn the language, even though you really like don't have to. I think it is respectful. Like if I'm gonna move to this country, I want to respect the people that live here and learn Dutch. But everyone literally everyone speaks English, and that I think even if I know Dutch, people will probably just go to English for me because my Dutch will be pretty bad. So I'm mainly learning it just because it sounds like really exciting to have the opportunity to, and just out of respect. And because my kids will know it, and a lot of times the kids on the playground, like if they're Dutch, they don't really know English quite yet because they learn it later. So if I want to communicate with a kid on the playground, like, hey, you know, Nico wants to play with your ball, is that okay? I would like to learn Dutch so I can at least like communicate with the kids on the playground. This question, did you feel immediate relief once you were out of the US in terms of safety? I don't want to get like too political on social media because that sounds stressful and exhausting. But you know, there's an election coming up in the United States, and just the overall atmosphere of being there has been really stressful for me. I think especially with children, I think all of a sudden my understanding of safety is just like so heightened. There was a really big school shooting in our city last year in a really beautiful, safe part of town, a private school. And you're like, if it can happen there, it can really happen anywhere. And I just have a lot of anxiety around that. And so truly, as soon as we got here, I felt like a load off my shoulders. And even just like walking the kids to the park, or there's like a lot of little things, going to the grocery store, you don't realize how much like anxiety or just like awareness you carry, or that I would carry in the United States. Like every time I'm in the grocery store with my kids there, I'm always kind of like, I always have my head on a swivel. I'm always like looking for emergency exits because it is very common for shootings to happen. And again, I know, you know, anything can happen anywhere, but that's not a normal thing here. Definitely not for a gun, definitely not for an AR-15 to show up in public in that way. And so I do notice like my ease, even just like walking alone in a city, like I definitely feel a different level of safety, and that is really nice. Anyway, yeah, I definitely feel a lot better here. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for now because I have to get some work done before I head out the door in a few minutes.
Our Tuscan bean soup with kale, beans, chicken sausage, rosemary, thyme, salt.
Good job, Nico. You're doing
You're doing wonderful.
Yeah, you're a good chef.